We'll take a wild guess and assume that you're familiar with several of the world's most powerful corporations, like Apple, Starbucks, and NBC. There's one you've likely never heard of, BlackRock. After only 30 years in business, this firm has earned a widespread recognition as the company that runs the world. It was created in 1988, having assets worth around $10 trillion. So what exactly is BlackRock? What does it specialize in? How did it actually earn the title of ruling the entire world? We'll answer these questions shortly, as we reveal the secrets of BlackRock in today's episode of Deep Luxury, the show where we take a deep dive in all things considered luxury. BlackRock Incorporated is a New York-based American multinational investment management firm. The company expanded from its roots as a risk management and fixed income institutional asset manager to become a global powerhouse with 70 locations in 30 countries. With customers in 100 different nations, let's take a behind-the-scenes look at this company. BlackRock was created in 1988 by Larry Fink, who would later become chairman and CEO, along with several others, including Robert Escobedo, Susan Wagner, Barbara Novick, Ben Golub, Hugh Frater, and Ralph Shalosti. They must have bumped shoulders with Lady Luck herself, since the company started turning a profit within months, and its assets quadrupled to $2.7 billion the following year. The name BlackRock was adopted in 1992, managing $17 billion in assets during that year. By 1994, that number had skyrocketed to $53 billion. BlackRock's rise was explosive, which should go without saying. The company expanded rapidly, both organically and through acquisitions over the course of several decades, eventually amassing $325 billion in assets under administration by 2004. Although not nearly as absurd as it's considered today, the financial meltdown of 2008 was severe enough for the United States government to hire BlackRock to help clean up the mess. As of 2009, BlackRock would have surpassed all other asset management firms. BlackRock is a formidable foe to the world's largest bank, the Industrial and Commercial Bank of China, and has been called a ghost on Wall Street for years. Most people still don't understand it, but that hasn't stopped it from receiving a fair amount of criticism. After all, you can't get to be as big as BlackRock without upsetting some people in the process. A lot of people are upset about how their properties affect the environment. When it comes to the largest oil companies, BlackRock is among the top 3 shareholders. Regarding the largest coal producers, BlackRock is among the top 10 shareholders in 7 of the 10 largest companies. BlackRock makes significant environmental preservation and sustainability investments to counter these allegations. And even true, valid concerns haven't been able to slow the development of this mammoth. The firm manages assets totaling several trillion dollars and controls roughly 10% of the world's financial support. Its influence extends far beyond the purchase and maintenance of equity and debt securities. BlackRock provides investment advice to governments, their financial agencies, and large institutional investors, such as pension funds and insurance companies. They invest their money in businesses all across the world. When it comes to the global financial market, BlackRock is literally everywhere. With headquarters in Midtown Manhattan, BlackRock exerts its influence worldwide. The company owns major investments in central U.S. banks and firms on virtually every continent, including those that produce cars in Germany, mine iron ores in South America, and mine gold in Africa. With that being the case, you may be curious how they managed to achieve everything. The answer is what may have worked well in the financial sector a few years ago is unlikely to do so today due to the rapid pace of change in the industry. BlackRock is well aware of this trend, and in response, they have created a formidable piece of software they've dubbed Aladdin to assist them in adapting to the shifting financial landscape. Aladdin is solely responsible for conducting risk assessments for BlackRock's customers. To perform the high-stakes risk analysis for which BlackRock is paid so generously, it receives confidential information from influential organizations like banks and insurance companies. Aladdin is a network of 5,000 computers whose purpose is to track millions of trades and evaluate their customers' holdings. Due to its extensive use and high accuracy in risk analysis, Aladdin has become the brains of many significant investment firms. It doesn't simply function for risk assessments, supplying BlackRock with a lot more. With the help of this program, BlackRock can access private information from major financial organizations worldwide, including banks, pension funds, and insurance companies. Essentially, the program gave them a glimpse inside the administration of around $20 trillion in assets. That's in addition to the massive $10 trillion in assets BlackRock already oversees. BlackRock has put itself in a favorable position within the global economy. holding shares and voting rights in many of the largest European companies. Thanks to its access to such wealth and information in the energy, oil and gas, transportation, and agricultural industries, which are all essential to the maintenance of a civilized society. BlackRock has a much stronger hold on society than most people realize. The company is a significant holder of both public debt, in the form of bonds, and pension funds for many individuals. It also wields considerable political clout, serving as a regular counselor to entire governments. When the entity that controls a country's whole financial machinery has you on speed dial, you're in a league of your own. Central banks allow BlackRock to audit regular banks and advise them on management. The irony here is that BlackRock is often a substantial shareholder in the very banks that central banks want them to audit and advise. This means that during these meetings, BlackRock is sitting on both sides of the table, urging the government to manage banks they already own. And even if this weren't the case, it would still give BlackRock access to sensitive information that would serve to make them eminently more powerful. Who then was the driving force behind the creation of this behemoth, and how wealthy must they be at this point? As we've mentioned earlier, if you were paying attention, Larry Fink is the billionaire mastermind behind BlackRock. Fink is well respected in the financial industry for his extensive knowledge of the market and his reputation as someone who has always sought success. Interestingly, he experienced a massive loss for his employers of $100 million, but then would go on to start a company that would become one of the wealthiest in the world. Fink began his career in the bond structuring and trading industry on Wall Street when he was just 23 years old. He rapidly rose to prominence and reached legendary status in a decade for his role in creating the debt securitization market, dramatically altering how loans were managed on Wall Street. It's just another turning point in Larry's climb to stardom that the US Treasury hired him to sweep up the mess he helped create. By the time he was 31 years old, he had earned the reputation as an investment genius. He had become the youngest managing director in First Boston's history, contributing to their acquisition of $1 billion in assets. In every practical sense, Fink was their meal ticket. That was until he wasn't anymore. He would eventually lose $100 million for his company and would become a severe liability almost immediately. It kind of makes for a captivating villain origin story, wouldn't you say? He's shunned by society and thrown out of the company, where he spent the past 12 years making absurd amounts of money for. With a few bumps and bruises along the way, he would go on to co-found and grow BlackRock into the industry powerhouse it is today. One thing's for certain, Larry Fink has made a comeback, evidenced by his net worth of over $1 billion and his role in the United States government's financial policy making. BlackRock is involved with a few other top-rated firms and initiatives than most people understand, so we're still not done with talking about just how powerful it is. BlackRock has a sizable stake in Apple, providing it access to the tech giant's enormous share of the smartphone and tablet markets. In addition to Apple, they own shares of Microsoft, the IT industry's other heavyweight, ultimately proving that influence in the IT industry can be achieved without developing a single semiconductor. BlackRock has considerable stakes in pharmaceutical giants like Pfizer and J&J because they know exactly where to put their money. Imagine if money weren't spent on necessities for human life. Yeah, right. As we've said, a vast portion of BlackRock's assets is invested in major oil firms like ExxonMobil and Chevron. The company has also increased its footing in sustainable investment, environmental, social, and corporate governance, and has funded several critically major projects. They've spent a ton of money simultaneously aiming to be environmentally friendly and stylish. BlackRock has sent letters to CEOs and have invested in projects like the Carbon Disclosure Project to bring environmental and diversity issues to the forefront of the public's mind. It's reportedly been lobbying the US government to pass regulations, mandating that private companies publish critical metrics on their climate effect, or diversity in other areas, all while supporting companies that aren't doing so. Yup, BlackRock is so powerful that it can afford to have representatives on both sides of an issue, which is insane in every sense of the word. What are your thoughts about BlackRock? Were you aware that this company was secretly running the world? Or do you think BlackRock is simply a cover-up and that there may be another company out there that's actually in control of the world? Let us know what you think in the comments below, and we'll happily join in on the conversation. If you found this episode quite interesting, give it a thumbs up and hit the subscribe and bell button to stay up to date on the latest news about the ultra-rich and powerful. Thanks for watching.